Sine, it's such a pleasure to have you in the room, to be in conversation with you, and just so excited for the Branson Center community to get to know you a little bit more and hopefully to learn a little bit about impact investment, how that plays into purpose, and also how that plays into how entrepreneurs can grow their businesses. You're an investment specialist at 91. You also sit on the board of directors for the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship, and so it is actually really a privilege to be in conversation with you. Thank you for your time.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, Nobisa.
It's my pleasure. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Sine and why is she even in this conversation with us?
Wow, okay. So, where do I start?
At the beginning.
At the beginning. Okay, where it all kind of started. I am from Durban. I grew up in KwaMashu and, went through my schooling there, was raised by both my parents. And then in 2005, I decided to go study mining engineering at WITS.
Oh, mining.
Mining
Okay.
engineering at WITS, yes, I know, but left field. But anyway, so I studied mining engineering, but I didn't practice as an engineer. I went straight into the investment space, into investment banking. And I've held various roles within investment banking for the past 12 years. And now I am an investment specialist, like you said, at 91, and we focus on, investing in impactful infrastructure projects on the African continent. It's what I do, it's what I love. And yeah, so I'm a theoretical engineer, but a finance specialist in terms of my practice.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued to understand what you describe to be impact. You spoke about you specialize in, investing in impactful infrastructure projects across the continent. What does impact mean to you?
So to me, impact is just basically making the lives of people, the lives of Africans and South Africans better.
Yeah.
And that can take the shape of giving them sustainable jobs. It can take the shape of giving them affordable housing, access to quality education, access to the internet even.
Absolutely.
And also financial inclusivity, giving people the tools in order to make their lives better. Essentially, that's what impact is to me. And that's, from a societal standpoint, I think, that's basically that's how I would encapsulate the term impact.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is that it so clearly speaks to then the purpose of the Branson Center, which is to change business for good.
Yeah.
For the Branson Center, it's about enabling entrepreneurs in a way that is good for people, planet, and profit. And so what excites me about being in conversation with you, especially when you talk so much about impact, is this link between then, impact and then investment.
Yes.
And so what's your take on how entrepreneurs are purpose-led and are impact-driven and their ability to access investment?
The impact investing world is actually quite massive. If you actually, take a step back and look at it, it's actually quite big. And in South Africa, you've got the DFIs, which are development finance institutions.
So development finance institutions.
Yes.
What are those?
Those are government-owned bodies or companies that really drive capital towards impactful projects. When you look at, the spectrum of investment or impact investors. On the one end, you've got investors that say, give me my money back and a bit of a return.
Right.
And then on the other end, you've got other investors that say, let's heal the world, let's make it a better place. Okay, and then they care less about, getting a financial return. And that world is like your philanthropic organizations, your charities, your aid, etc. But somewhere in the middle, there's a world of impact investors that care about the financial return alongside, the impact or the benefit to society. And that special class of investor is what I feel purpose-led, impact-driven entrepreneurs and businesses can sort of find a relationship and can access capital from.
Right.
So that's a special class of investor, and it's growing. I find that institutions are changing their mindsets about impact. It's not just like now an addendum or an annexure in terms of the investment process. It's now becoming core of the investment process. And so environment, social impact, development impact is becoming so important to them. And so as this happens, the pool of capital that is available for impact investing is growing.
It's so exciting.
It's very exciting.
So exciting.
It's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the opportunity for purpose-led entrepreneurs is also getting bigger for them to access funding.
So this is very exciting for me because it's giving me a sense of there's this incredible universe in which entrepreneurs who are purpose-led and impact-driven can enter in terms of accessing capital, and that these institutions already are there. So it's not that the entrepreneur needs to do a hard sell to find the right investor and therefore partner for their business. Can you maybe name a few of these institutions that exist in South Africa and in the region?
Yeah, sure. So, interestingly, I read a report, the Global Impact Investor Network, and it was released this year, and they outlined 26 DFIs that are active in South Africa. Very interesting reports, very informative. And so I found that, the biggest and most impactful impact investors in South Africa are the DFIs. And DFIs are, development finance institutions that are owned by government, and their purpose is to drive development, hence the name DFI. And so in South Africa, you've got the usual suspects. You've got the IDC, DBSA, as well as the NEF, which is more geared towards entrepreneurs. And they play in South Africa as well as into the region. And then broadly speaking, on the rest of the continent, you've got the AFDB, the African Development Bank. You've also got AfriExim, and you've also got the IFC, which is an arm of the World Bank.
Right.
So, that community of investors where governments have come together and they say, how can we together collaboratively drive development of our continent, gives me so much hope. It's so exciting. In the global context, you've also got a massive amount of money that's coming in, that's flowing into South Africa and onto our continent. And that's driven a lot by also the, the global DFIs. In Germany, you've got KfW, quite active in South Africa. Proparco, which is French, also active in South Africa. The Belgian one, I can't remember the Belgian one. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
The Belgians also have a play.
Yes, the Belgians also have a play, as well as IFU, which is the Danish DFI. All quite active on the African continent, driving impact, driving socially responsible and socially impactful projects. Okay, so that's the public money. DFIs are public money. Then you've got private money, and that's mostly the institutions like the pension funds, as well as the insurers. They've got large amounts of money, and they're also changing their mindset and becoming more purpose-led and sustainability and impact-driven. So, the usual suspects, Old Mutual, Sanlam, Stanlib, even 91, they've allocated pools of money which is dedicated towards impact. For example, Old Mutual's got a fund that is specially allocated towards affordable housing, student housing, healthcare, etc. So it's very encouraging and very exciting to see, these traditionally commercial beasts, actively getting into the impact investment space. It's really nice to see.
It really is, and it's also exciting because it's telling us that there is a place for the work that we're all doing, which is actually getting us to understand that people, planet, profit as things that we're trying to impact on in our businesses can all exist together. It's no longer a trade-off. And to see these traditional commercially minded beasts understand this, it means they're chasing something down. They understand that there's money in this. And so I think that really is exciting and encouraging for any entrepreneur who's listening to this, who's growing their business and is gearing themselves up to eventually land some sort of investment. They don't have to look too far. It's here.
Yeah.
So then, knowing that we have this money that's sitting there, that's available for the entrepreneurs, what would you suggest an entrepreneur have at least ready before they even make an approach? What do you think they need to have focused on in their business and that they need to show to an investor?
Yeah. Investor ready. What does investor ready mean? Let's start there, I think. So for me, an investor ready business is one that is ready to go through the interrogation process, the the scrutiny process of a due diligence of an investor. So typically an investor, before they invest, they're going to analyze a business brick by brick to try and understand all the risks and make sure that all the risks are managed or being properly mitigated before they, sign that first check. And so it's crucial that an entrepreneur does their homework and they're able to justify whatever financial projections that they're putting forward in front of an investor. They're able to understand their market, they understand their customer, understand customer acquisition, and also have all that information documented properly. It's as simple as putting everything on a Google Drive or a OneDrive folder, online for an investor to access. It's just simple organizational skills and packaging all the information that you have neatly and making it easier for an investor to just simply go into that folder and access all that information and do their analysis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And where do they sit with their purpose? Where do they showcase their purpose as an entrepreneur to an investor?
In their business plan. In their business plan, in their business model, I think it's important for them to clearly articulate their impact and their purpose, because you need that alignment.
Yes.
If you want to attract the right kind of impact investor, you need an impact investor that's aligned with your vision, that's aligned with where your business is going and buys into your vision of impact. So they can articulate that in their business model, in the way they intend on acquiring customers, in the way they intend of growing their revenue. It's core to their business model, in a sense, I would say.
That makes me very happy because we are all about embedding purpose. And so I think as we wrap up, there is something exciting that's brewing within the Branson Center, and I know that you're taking the lead on this. And so it's also really an honor for me to start talking about the Return on Impact Fund that the Branson Center is looking at deploying one day. Can you maybe give us a sense of what this is about, what it will eventually do, and how it seeks to enable entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about this new area of growth that the Branson Center is taking. And we've called it the Return on Impact Fund for a reason. It's not an ROI like return on investment. It's a return on impact because impact is core to our purpose. Our purpose as the Branson Center is to enable enablers. And we will do that by providing funding to entrepreneurs. And we all know, it's a well-known fact that in South Africa, access to funding is one of the major challenges that entrepreneurs and small businesses face. And so we as the Branson Center are seeking to plug that gap. And that is our purpose, to enable enablers using funding. And so that's what the Return on Impact Fund seeks to achieve, and that's what we seek to do. Having said that, we will be targeting entrepreneurs that struggle the most, and those are the ones that sort of have a concept ready. They sort of have a prototype, if I can put it that way, ready to go to market. But because there's just such a shortage of funders who are able to sort of provide funding for that kind of entrepreneur, we're saying, let's plug that gap. Let's give you a leg up, and that's where we come in. So we want to sort of target entrepreneurs or businesses. We call them the missing middle. Yes, we call them the missing middle, and that's where we are looking to play. And the type of businesses that we'll be targeting are those that have some sort of alignment to the United Nations Sustainability Goals. In 2015 in New York, the United Nations came together and they said, let's devise the basics of a framework from which we can measure impact. And amongst those UN SDGs are things like access to the internet, food security, quality healthcare, education, etc. So our businesses and entrepreneurs that we're targeting have to be aligned to those goals, and those goals obviously are going to be the bedrock of their purpose. So that's the Return on Impact Fund. Very excited about it. I think it's going to be a game changer for entrepreneurs.
And we're all about the smart disruption here in the Branson Center and, of course, across the Virgin Group. Sine, thank you so much for your time. There's so much that we could have unpacked around the impact investment space. I know your journey, but also, of course, the Return on Impact Fund. So I'm hoping that we'll have you back on the podcast.
I'm going to be back for part 2.
Exactly. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Nobis.